Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2019 Spring UEFI Plug Fest. Mr. Dong Wei will be kicking off with the presentations, the State of the UEFI today. Dong is Vice President of the UEFI Forum and Senior Director, Lead Platform Architect, and ARM Fellow. Dong?
Oh, thank you all. I think I've seen a lot of old friends over here. So I'll help kick off this event with this keynote. So like Rachel was saying, I represent the UEFI Forum as the Vice President. And then, the day-to-day job, I'm an ARM employee. So let's go through some of the event overview. We're going to talk about the UEFI Forum and the specification updates. And then we're going to touch a little bit on the security and open source. And then we're going to talk about some future events as well. So this event is made possible by these companies sponsoring this event: AMI, ARM, Inside, Intel, Lenovo, Microsoft, Phoenix, and of course the UEFI Forum itself. So the schedule looks something like this. We have almost a full morning session today. We have a number of sessions going on this morning. And then this is from about 9 o'clock now till the noontime, including lunch. And then we have testing from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock today. We have a welcome reception this evening over here at Embassy Suites. And then you have some drink tickets in the pocket of your badge. Tomorrow we have some additional sessions. There were a couple of NXP sessions got canceled because the presenters couldn't make to the event. So we didn't change the schedule much, but we still have a lot of sessions going on today and tomorrow. Testing will start from the afternoon 2:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. And then we have the evening event at the Parlor Bellevue. So the food is a Mexican grill. I hope you like it. And then we have beverage and activities. And it is sponsored by Intel. On Thursday, we have some more sessions going on. It starts from after lunch till mid-afternoon. So actually a collection of more than 10 sessions for the entire event. So this is actually the event I think we have the most of the sessions so far. So we got a lot of session proposals when we prepare for the event, and we decided to present all to you because I think it's important to hear from many different companies, many different people from many different angles, and that's actually very good to have. All right, and then the afternoon break, we have speakers' office hours as well from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock every day. And you can meet the presenters and talk to them about whatever the topics they presented and any other topics you want to talk to them about. And the afternoon breaks are sponsored by AMI, Inside, and Phoenix. Well, you have 3 IBVs competing and collaborating together, right? So that's a very good example. So then there is an event survey. So there's a link on this page that you could go to after the event to let us know your opinions about these events, and when we collect the feedback, we can improve every time. All right, so just a little bit of the overview or update on the UEFI forum. I actually just saw another membership report yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to update to this chart. But we have over 354 total membership with, of course, 13 promoters, 43 contributors, and 254 adopters, with an additional 44 individual adopters as well. And the organization chart hasn't changed much for a while. So we have the Industry Communication Working Group, which organizes these kind of events and talk about how we communicate with the industry, with everyone, doing a lot of marketing functionalities. And then we have the UEFI Specification Working Group, which manages the UEFI specification. There are a bunch of sub-teams focusing on some subject matters with experts to form the ECRs, the engineering change requests. And then once these things are ready, they present to the bigger working group. And then there's the Platform Initialization Working Group, responsible for the Platform Initialization Specification, the PI spec. And then there's a Test Working Group, which used to manage the SCT, the Self-Certifying Test Suite for UEFI spec, but now basically manages the relationship with the open source UEFI SCT and the FWTS work. I think after 2013, we have brought in the ACPI spec, so there's an ACPI spec working group. There are some sub-teams in there as well, focusing on certain areas of interest. And of course, we also have a UEFI security response team. I think from time to time we hear from researchers or some other people reporting issues related to the security of the UEFI implementations. And as the forum, we try to address those issues together. So in terms of the specification updates, so in the last month or two, we have brought many of the specifications to a new version. So UEFI spec is now version 2.8, and I think it was just released like a week or so ago. PI spec, we brought that to version 1.7. And ACPI spec we have brought to version 6.3. And I have collected a few summary of what are the new things in these versions. For example, in ACPI 6.3, we have covered some of the PCC operation regions, I3C host controllers, generic initiator, which is very useful to address the heterogeneous kind of environment, talking about accelerators and stuff. And then the peripheral attached memory, which would be useful for the the kind of implementations for the accelerators as well. C6, for example, is the technology that initiated this need. And there are enhancements into HMAT and some of the NVDIM operations as well. So you can go through all the features as you go through the spec. I'm not going to try to cover everything here in this short time. PI 1.7, we have many enhancements as well, if you will. And And then in the UEFI 2.8, we certainly have the matching features like the peripheral attached memory. And then there are a lot of enhancements to the redfish support. I think there are a whole bunch of redfish-related presentations later on this week. We also removed the EBC requirement because I think for both x86 and ARM, we are now moving people to the native format support. And then we also enhanced the C6 error structure as well as some of the runtime calls that may return unsupported. This is, I think, I'll touch later on in another session about the EBBR support, and this is kind of matching the need in that space. All right, and then in terms of the tests, so UEFI, SCT, I'm kind of stealing a few thunders from the next session, but this is a very high-level overview. So the latest stable binary we have is the 2.6a SCT, and it was published a while ago, but the source code was only available to the UEFI forum contributors. And last October, I think we finally changed the model where the SCT is now going to be developed in open source. And you have a link to the GitHub where the open source code is at. And the team has actually tagged a new version that is intended to be the 2.7a beta quality for this PlugFest. And once we figure out whether there are any issues or not after the PlugFest, then the UEFI forum would perform this recommendation, right? Once it's stable, we're going to recommend a version for a particular specification version. It was the same way as we did for the ACPI test before, but for ACPI, the test suite is the FWTS. So in the ACPI, in the FWTS, the 19.02.00 updates was for the ACPI 6.3, so that was done in February of this year, and that's the link to it. And then there's a 19.03 available in March already, and that version is intended to be the beta quality for testing at this event as well. Afterwards, if no issues, then the UEFI forum would recommend this tag to be the version for ACPI 6.3. All right, a couple of the key points that I want to bring up, which is kind of the focus area that we want to emphasize for the UEFI forum moving forward. I think the UEFI security has been the focus for a while, and we'll continue to do that. It will be a concentrated effort for the forum and for the entire community. We want to make sure our solutions have the secure implementations as much as possible. We're going to continue to maintain with errata and new content updates, which reflects all the experience that we have had. And of course, this will have a broad architecture support for many different ISA. And recently, we did a UEFI webinar on secure coding. There's a link to it on YouTube. So hopefully, if you missed that event, you can go back and check it out. A number of our friends in this community have put together this session for you. And open source is certainly an area that we want to approach. And I'm going to steal a few key points from a session that Mark Doran is going to have tomorrow, I hope. So the first one is to enable the code-first approach. By that I mean we have had a problem where if you submit an ECR first to the UEFI forum, then you have a blackout window before the ECR is approved by the forum. You couldn't go to the open source community and implement what was proposed, right? For a period of time until the ECR got approved. So the new approach is that you could go to the open source community and do the implementation first, and when the solution is ready, you basically come up with the ECR at that point and submit to the UEFI forum. So the blackout window wouldn't apply. So I'll let Mark explain that to you more in tomorrow's session, but that's kind of the approach that we want to move forward with. It's an alternative approach. You can still do the traditional approach as we have been doing so far. But if you want to address the open source issue of a blackout period, then we can collectively attempt to use this code-first approach to address that. And the other thing is we would like to encourage the open source contributions, increasing open source contributions in reference implementations, SCT and FWTS. All these things are open source. And then we would also want to improve the open source process, which again, Mark is going to talk more from the Intel perspective tomorrow. But I think we collectively support that kind of approach. And the other thing I want to also mention that if you haven't been to the OCP summit a couple weeks ago, I think there has been a lot of discussions in that summit. There's an open source firmware incubator group, I guess, in that OCP formation. And most of the cloud suppliers would like to have the system firmware in open source. And there are two different streams being talked about over there. So we need to keep an eye on those developments because whatever the cloud vendors are wanting, the customers are wanting a solution that we should try to accommodate. All right. So usually I think when we have a Plugfest, we would be able to announce the location and the time for the next event. But unfortunately, due to some geopolitical issues, we're still trying to figure out where the next event will be and the time for that. But we have some general ideas. We're looking certainly in the Asia-Pacific area, probably in China. The time frame would be late October to early November because that's usually the time we have the Plugfest in the fall. And that period seems to be the time where people are available. So we are going to try to make a decision as soon as possible, hopefully by the end of the month. So, sorry for not having the concrete information at this particular time. So check out the UEFI website. As soon as we hit a decision, we will announce that over there. Any questions? If not, I think we officially declare the open of the UEFI Plugfest in spring 2019.